Emotionally healthy people do not breadcrumb their exes. Avoidants are notorious for breadcrumbing. There's reasons for it. But what exactly is breadcrumbing? Breadcrumbing is when the person that did the dumping gives the dumped person little hints and clues and cues that they might regret the breakup, that they might want to get back together, dangling out that little carrot of hope. And doing things along the lines of liking social media posts, watching stories on Facebook or Instagram, and sometimes even reaching out through text, through friendly banter, maybe even occasionally hanging out together, but never really committing to getting back in the relationship. And with the avoidant, every time that you try to have that conversation with them to get back together when they're breadcrumbing you, they either tell you that they're not ready to get back in the relationship, or they just ghost and disappear again, only to resurface down the road, dropping breadcrumbs once again. Being breadcrumbed is so anxiety producing, especially if you didn't want the breakup, because you're constantly holding on to these little crumbs of false hope that this person may want to come back. It can create more anxiety than the initial breakup itself, because you are not being given that space and time to heal those wounds and to move on. You are in a constant state of limbo. And the person who is breadcrumbing you is doing so for selfish reasons, because they're only thinking of themselves. Why do they breadcrumb? They want your validation. They want to know that you still want them. They want to know that you are still an available option in their back pocket, that they can bring you back in as a romantic partner at any time they so choose. Plus, they want to know that you don't hate them. They know they hurt you, they crushed you, they broke your heart. But if you still want them and validate them, if you give them that validation they crave, well, guess what? It means you don't hate them, which means they get to escape accountability. See, I didn't hurt this person that badly. They still want me. If I hurt them badly, they wouldn't want me. It helps them avoid accountability, and it gives them that little hit of dopamine every time that you validate them to help them feel better about themselves. Avoidants, in particular, rely heavily on external validation to feel better about themselves. They grew up in households where they received consistent childhood emotional neglect. Growing up where you don't talk about feelings, and they weren't given that unconditional love and nurturing in the way that they needed. So they learned to rely heavily on external validation, the approval of others, to feel better about themselves. So they ran away from the relationship due to their insecurities, but they still want your validation, and they want to avoid accountability. They don't want to actually take ownership of the way they hurt you, because that would poke at their core wound of shame. There's a deep wound of shame inside of them, and that stems from that emotional neglect. They personalized it to grow up to feel defective and unlovable. And if they were to take accountability for how they hurt you, in their mind, it would be confirming their own perceived inner defectiveness. So they don't want to take that accountability, so they breadcrumb you. But here's the thing, they're not thinking of you, because if they were, they wouldn't do it. A person that is emotionally healthy doesn't breadcrumb because they know it would be just perpetuating anxiety in the other person, giving them constant false hope, keeping them on the hook, not letting this person heal and move on. There is no empathy in breadcrumbing. The person that is breadcrumbing you has no empathy for you, because if they did, they wouldn't be doing it, because they would be self-aware enough, self-reflective enough to know that this behavior is very selfish and very hurtful to the other person, because you're just ripping the wound open every single time. You don't have to allow the breadcrumbing. You don't have to allow it. You can set boundaries, which are your limits of what you'll tolerate and not tolerate, what you want, don't want, and what you expect and don't expect. And you can simply say to the person that is breadcrumbing you, unless you are reaching out with a purpose, unless you're trying to repair the broken relationship, I ask you to please allow me my time and space so I can heal from my broken heart. And every time you reach out without a purpose, it just rips open the wound over and over again. And you can hold it there. And if they don't respect that boundary, block them. Because you know what? You wouldn't do that to them. You don't deserve it happening to you. And you're not selfish for holding and enforcing boundaries. Your feelings matter. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You can stand up for yourself here and do it in a healthy, kind, and empathetic way. But recognize if you're being breadcrumbed, that is a reflection of the person doing the breadcrumbing. It's selfish on their part. You deserve better. Don't sell yourself short.